Good afternoon. I want to talk to you today a little bit about organizing your speech. And I'm going to show you this quote that I thought was rather interesting. It says, "It's best to do things systematically since we're only human and disorder is our worst enemy." Well, that was said by a poet named Hesiod in ancient Greece, but I think it's still true that organization and disorganization is a big issue for us no matter what we're doing, whether we're trying to keep our closets in order or kitchens or trying to make a speech or write a paper or whatever. Organization's always a big issue. So I want to talk to you about speech organization. And I'm going to begin with talking a little bit about the general goal. We're always looking to have in a speech our introduction, body, and conclusion. Now, sometimes people are a little bit confused about what we mean by this. Most of the time we say either introduction, body, or conclusion, or we maybe say the beginning, middle, and end that needs to be distinct. Some people more recently have said, well, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, then you tell them what you told them. Well, if we get too simplistic with use of that, it might seem rather ridiculous, but in a sense, it's true. That's what we do in the introduction, body, and conclusion. But when I'm talking about organizing your speech today, I'm going to be a little bit more specific in talking to you not just about that aspect, but about organizing the body of your speech. So let's begin by talking about the fact that there's different ways that you could go about getting the body organized. What you want to do is to have the body of your speech organized in such a way that the listener can follow what you're saying and it makes sense. Now, if you're talking about a trip you took or something that happened, then you may have it organized chronologically. If you're talking about some idea that you want your audience to go along with, then it might be that you give specific reasons for that. And within that, you might decide which reasons to put first and which reasons to put second. If you're describing something, you're trying to convince somebody of what a mess your house had been in or something like that, then it may be totally different. It may be that you want to start with one room and say something about the general condition of that room and then move on to the next one. But in the body, you would want to have some sort of order to it. Now, how you go about that is kind of up to you. Some people will just immediately, they have a purpose, they know where they're going with it, and so they may just prefer to begin by saying, you know, honesty is the best policy. Now, how many reasons can I think of that that's true? And go about it that way. Or somebody else may say, well, I'm going to talk about that my house was such a terrible mess. And so they know what their goal is, not just the topic, but the actual goal. So in that, it may work for you just to write down a statement that tells the listener exactly what you're going to be telling them. So that statement might be in, like, if honesty is the best policy is what you're going to try to prove, then that statement might be in the introduction somewhere. So that's one of the traditional ways that we've always tried to organize things. But let's say that the only thing you know is, I just want to talk about my vacation. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just want to tell them about my vacation. So rather than go through and give every detail and all that, you might want to create what is sometimes called a mind map. And I've kind of got a picture of one here that might work, where you have your main idea there in the center, and then you just kind of lead off that and think of different things that happened. If you want to tell about your vacation, you might just put different things that happened during your vacation. And then as you're listing those things in no particular order, somewhere along the way, you realize that there is some importance to the things that you are recalling, and then that will help you to get to that next step, which maybe would be actually listing, putting your main idea and supporting points in there. So there's different ways to go about it, but what you would want to do is to have the body of your speech organized in such a way that anybody listening to it could tell that they could follow your sequence of events. Now, getting back just a little bit to the introduction, let me say this about the introduction. Purpose of your introduction is to get your audience to know what you're talking about, that they have an expectation that is correct about where you're going with this speech. But even before that, you've got to get their attention. So you may come up with a funny story or question or something like that that's going to help draw them in and get them interested in what you're saying, because it in some way relates to them. So that's your purpose of your introduction. But toward the end, after you've listed all your points, after you've described all the things in your house, after you've done whatever it is you're going to do, then you also want to think about, how can I end this so that they will remember the point that I was trying to make, so that they will believe that honesty is the best policy, so that they will understand how this could have been the best vacation that you've had, how they understand what a mess your house was in. Whatever you're going for, then you want them at the end to remember that. Just like you want them to know about it up front, you want them to end it, and you want to end it in such a way that they will remember what you have said. So hopefully this will kind of help you when you start thinking about your speech. Realize that yes, you have an opening, body, and conclusion, but the biggest chore in organization of a speech is to work on that body part to where that it flows in some sort of logical sequence. And that then to think about, once you've done it, think about how you can introduce it so that people will be drawn in and that they will want to hear what you're saying. And then at the end, how you conclude it in such a way that people will remember the points that you made in your speech. Thank you.